All right, hey everybody, Teching 101 back again alongside Vampire Berry and special guest star for this video. We have the cat goddess, guardian of Lower Egypt, Bastet. Let's all hear it for Bastet, ladies and gentlemen, yeah. All right, so in today's video, this is going to be a simple one. We're going back to basics. It's going to be an ordinary devil fruit discussion video. Nothing crazy. I don't want to see anybody dressed fancy for this video. Okay? If you are dressed in a full-piece tuxedo with a top hat, a monocle, a cool swirly mustache, and drinking some tea, I want you out of here right now. Okay, I don't know how statistics work, but maybe somewhere somebody is like, "Egads, Teching, dare say, this is most unorthodox," and they like shut their, computer off and go off to a fancy dinner or something. I don't know. Anywho, today we are discussing the devil fruit of Mr. 1, Daz Bonez. But also, there's another user. There's a new kid on the block, ladies and gentlemen. We have S-Hawk, the Seraphim clone of Mihawk, that also has an artificial version of the Supa-Supa no Mi, or the slash fruit, or in the English translations, the dice fruit, which is rather confusing because if we actually get a devil fruit user whose ability is to turn people into dice, like, that would actually be a very devastating devil fruit power. Like, you roll a dice, and what did I get on the D20? I got a 13. I don't know. If you roll a 20, you just automatically succeed at anything. But whatever. Dice fruit, as in, dicing up some carrots or some onions. You slash things up. It's a really cool-looking devil fruit. The reason I'm talking about it is because in the most recent edition of the One Piece magazine, we got the reveal of the design of the Supa-Supa no Mi. And one question just crosses my mind with this thing. Is it sharp? Was it sharp when Mr. 1 ate this thing? I just have to be, it's this thing you have to curious about. Like, Crocodile's devil fruit, the Suna no Mi, is just a cactus. It had thorns and spikes sticking out of it, for God's sake. So, did Crocodile, after he was defeated by Whitebeard, actually, I don't know, he might have had his devil fruit before that, and Whitebeard still kicked his ass. Either way, at some point in Crocodile's life, he had to be like, eat a cactus in order to get stronger, right? I wonder if it was the same deal for Daz Bonez. If he was like, you really want to be the greatest bounty hunter out there, you gotta eat knives. Here you go. I had a bowl of nails for breakfast. Oh yeah, so what? Without any milk. Like, oh man, I'm just sorry to keep you waiting. Here you go, Mr. 1. Honestly, that is like the bad. He literally had to eat a bowl of nails in order to get his devil fruit power. I kind of like that. I kind of like the stronger devil fruits actually have a negative effect beyond just tasting horrible. Like, in order for Eneru to get the Goro no Mi, he literally had to get electrocuted while eating the fruit and had to endure the pain of that in order to get the power. That actually does sound pretty cool, but that's not the way it goes, at least we can assume. The only downside is devil fruits just taste awful, okay? So, you know what? It's a really simple devil fruit. It just allows you to change your body into swords or slashing weapons. Blades out of your fingers. You could turn your whole hand into a blade. Hell, you could turn your whole arm into a blade. Hell, we never saw this from Mr. 1 or S-Hawk, but maybe you could turn your whole body into a blade if you want. Like, Mr. 1 is like ultimate technique, and then he just turns into a sword and just lands on the ground, ultimate move. But the more you think about this ability and you really start to break it down a little bit, this is a really devastatingly strong fruit when it is, in the hands of somebody that knows how to use it well, trains with it. And that is the case with both current users of this ability because of Vegapunk's genius and his green blood technology. He was able to take some DNA from Mr. 1 Daz Bonez while he was imprisoned and impelled down, and then synthesize that and put it in S-Hawk, the Seraphim of Mihawk, which is the perfect devil fruit to have for that particular character, all right? So, essentially, you're turning your body into metal, so this is like a metal fruit, all right? It just basically is. To the point where, I mean, you can't exactly, I guess, consider this a Logia, but you kind of could. You know, I guess the idea of a Logia metal fruit might be something along the lines of, like, mercury. You know, once you start getting into, like, liquid metal that you can actually, like, mold your body and stuff like that. So you can't do that with the Supa-Supa no Mi. I understand there is a difference here. Even if you turn your body into metal and you got hit by something really strong enough, if it breaks up your body, it's not like Mr. One can, like, mold himself back together like the T-1000 or something, but there are similarities there, because in order for your body to become blades, you have to take on the properties of iron, of steel, in order to do that, right? And that was a big thing when Zoro was fighting Mr. One. He was just like, I will cut steel with my sword, all right? And that was the whole thing for a while there, and then finally Zoro succeeded. A little bit of observation Haki along the way, too, where he was remembering Koshiro, and it's like, you know, you can cut the things that you do want to cut, and your sword will not cut the things that you do not want them to cut. Like, that's when you are a true swordsman. And so Zoro began to, like, sense the energy, the Haki, I guess, and he was able to eventually slice through steel and defeat Mr. One. Mr. One also had at the end of that fight, a little bit of a last quip where he was, what are you gonna do now, cut diamond? And Zoro was just like, nah, that's a fool's errand, or there'd be no point in doing that or something. I don't know if that's teeing up something later on for the Kira no Mi, or the, you know, the fruit, the diamond fruit that Jozu has. I don't know if there's something else that's going to be involved in that there. Whatever happened to Jozu and the diamond fruit, that's something that's been in theory bank for a while. Like, you know, a lot of people thought Shiryu was going to get the diamond fruit, and so Zoro would have to fight against a diamond person in order, and like, oh, finally, you know, the words that Mr. One had finally came true, and Zoro cuts diamond, but Shiryu has the clear fruits. That's clearly not the case. But at any rate, it was a really badass fight. So, some interesting things about Mr. One Daz Bonez' use of this fruit. When Miss Golden Week used her abilities of the Rainbow Colors Trap to make all of the Baroque Works members realize their dream, basically it's the ultimate cosplay technique. She twirls her paintbrush and gives you costumes. So, in the case with Mr. One, he got a superhero outfit, which his dream his entire life was to become a superhero, all right? Like with a cape and then fly around and maybe not save the day, although he was a bounty hunter. Keep that in mind. He wasn't a pirate beforehand. He was a bounty hunter. So maybe his backstory is like growing up. He's like, I'm going to bring people to justice. And maybe for whatever reason, he didn't want to join the Marines. So he's like, I'm going to be a bounty hunter and I'm going to bring them in my own way. And then he got the power. He had to eat some knives, and he got the power of the Supa-Supa no Mi. Much to his dismay, he assumed that it would turn him into a superhero, maybe. Maybe Mr. One thought he could fly around and shoot laser beams like Superman when he ate the fruit. Instead, he could just turn his arms into knives or some shit. And he's like, ah, man, all right, that's not what I expected it to be. But you know what? Good enough. I can make this work, okay? So he's a bounty hunter for a while, and then Crocodile eventually meets him, and then he gets recruited into Baroque Works, and he becomes their top officer agent right behind Crocodile, who was Mr. Zero, right? Okay. And he was like his right-hand man, and even eventually when they got to Impel Down, it was interesting there, because when Crocodile was breaking out, you had a lot of other Baroque Works agents there. You had Mr. 3, you had Mr. 2, Bon Clay. Crocodile didn't really seem to care about any of them. In fact, he was trash-talking Mr. 3 quite a bit. But when you got to Mr. 1, that was when Crocodile was like, I need a right-hand man that knows how to handle himself. You in, Daz? And then Daz Bonez was like, yeah, I was getting kind of bored in here anyway, let's go, right? And so Crocodile personally recruits Mr. One. Doesn't give a shit about Bon Clay or Galdino or any other member of Baroque Works. They can just go off and do whatever they want. But specifically, Crocodile trusted in and understood and really respected the power of Mr. One, and the Supa-Supa no Mi is like, nah, I want you by my side. And then so to this day, they are still together in the Cross Guild, all right? A lot of times when we see Crocodile or Mihawk really, you know, threatening Buggy, you see Mr. One in the background. He's just kind of there. He hasn't done anything major yet, but, you know, he's still there, and I'm sure he's improved his Devil Fruit ability quite a bit in the meantime, right? Going along with the idea that he wanted to be a superhero, and he has the Supa-Supa no Mi, every single one of his techniques includes Supa in it in some way. So the basic technique technique of the Supa-Supa no Mi is that he just kind of hardens his body, and then he has the blades coming out of it, because even parts of his body that aren't the blades, you get the impression his body does get as hard as steel, because he's able to block, like, he can turn his arms into knives and swords, but then when there's like a bunch of gunfire, the bullets kind of just, even if they hit parts of his body that aren't the blades, they still kind of deflect off of him. So he basically has an automatic Tekai iron body whenever he goes into this form. So right away, that's a really cool ability. Like, you eat this devil fruit and it gives you an auto Tekai ability. That's pretty good, right? So he has that. Supaida, Supa, you know, there's it is. He just kind of hardens his body, makes his nails or his fingers all like razor blades and stuff like that. He has a spider claw, Supaida Kuro, there it goes, and then spiral hollow, Spiral Horo. So like Supa appears in every single one of those. Spiral hollow is, by the way, to me the most terrifying one. He's able to not just make static blades on his hands, not static blades like electric blades. Oh, maybe he could do that now. That actually sounds really cool. But no, he can make like a circular saw, like a buzz saw on his arm. So he can make little buzz saw blades come out of his arms and then make them rotate. So he's just like, you know, spiral death buzz saw blades of doom. Doom, you know? And there's that scene where Zoro is just getting manhandled by this guy and just like punches into him, and just his entire stomach is getting shredded by these circular saws. I don't know really, honestly, how Zoro won that fight. That was one of the ones in One Piece. If you go back and watch that fight, like, have you ever actually used, like, a circular saw before, okay? Those things are spinning crazy fast, and they'll just lop off a finger, an arm, a hand, just like that, okay? They'll shred you. Zoro got, like, 2 of those in the stomach, and I guess he really doesn't skip ab day, because he's just, ugh! Yeah, I work out. What are you gonna do? That circular saw barely dented my mighty steel iron abs. Mr. One looks down at his arms and his buzz saws are all broken up. He's like, oh my god, you're ripped. And Zoro's like, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a crazy fight. It really is. There's the sparkling daisy where he like takes his hands and like slams into Zoro, and like the building behind them gets slashed into like perfectly like 45-degree angles and like falls down. There's the ability where he has, like, ice skates, essentially, where, like, the bottom parts of his soles become, like, ice skates, and he's able to, like, ski or, like, skate over to the opponent and, like, slash him apart with, like, the razor fingers. Dude, when I was in London, I was talking to Briggs, and, you know, Briggs plays hockey, and, you know, he was talking about this story at one point where, like, in professional hockey, there was a player who, like, I guess something happened, and I don't know if it was, like, intentional or what, but, like, somebody, like, went to go kick another player with those things, and it slit their throat, and like I think they died, okay? And I'm listening to this story, and I'm like, oh god, well, I guess that makes sense, you know? So it's like, yeah, it's ice skates, they're terrifying, you're dangerous, you know what I mean? In fact, hold on a minute. This is a standard issue Dollar Tree box cutter. This baby right here is pretty damn sharp. You don't want to be messing around with it. This was my sidearm for a good 7 years at the Dollar Tree. You got to be careful with one of these. This is a standard, this is an S4 right here, S4 standard issue box cutter. I have a lot of scars on my fingers from mishaps involving this thing over the years, but you know, suffice to say, the power of just having a box cutter like on your fingers and dicing people up, if you are not Zoro, that's going to be really, really bad, all right? The only time we've seen S-Hawk use it is he turned his entire leg into a sword and then just kicked it, kind of like Tempest Kick, now that I'm thinking about it, and that got me even more like interested in the idea. If Mr. One mastered the Rokushiki techniques, holy shit, right? Okay, so you got an automatic Tekai with making your body as hard as steel. You also got kind of an automatic Rankyaku or a Tempest Kick, because it was definitely in Mr. One's wheelhouse to turn his leg into a sword and just slash with it, create like an air blade. You know, that anime vacuum energy blast thing that everybody can do. I love how in anime, if you just swing a sword fast enough, it creates like a light show. That's one of the cool things about anime, right? She Shigon, he just makes his finger into like a really sharp sword, or like maybe little mini buzzsaws come out of his finger and they just spin really quick. You know, circular saw Shigon. That's really dangerous. Kami-e even, turning your body into paper. That would be like a razor blade. Imagine you're fighting Mr. One, and he makes his whole body like thin as paper, but if you even come in contact with it, it's like the worst paper cut ever. Even worse than paper cuts, cardboard cuts. I have a few harrowing memories of those when I was at Dollar Tree as well. A cardboard cut? Oh, you think paper cuts are bad? No. I have a scar somewhere from a cardboard cut, all right? I have injured myself in so many ways. Okay. But yeah, Kami-e would be dangerous. Soru, just like make a bunch of swords or blades coming out of your body, like those, like just make a bunch of the buzz saws, circular saws around your body, and then just use Soru and just zip right through your opponents. It would be a scene where you have like a whole army, like Mr. One, Daz Bonez, is going up against like 1,000 people, and he makes the ice skates, and he's charging towards them, and he has blades all over his body, and they're like, okay, guys, there's only one of him. We got this. And then he just Soru's like zips right through the crowd, comes out the other end, and then they have that moment where it's like, what did he just do? Nothing happened. And then they turn around and their whole bodies like fall apart like salami. You know, like that would be cool, and he could totally do that. Geppo, I don't know, okay, I think Geppo is the only one of the 6 powers. What is a cool ability you can do with the dice fruit, the Supa-Supa no Mi, combined with the Geppo, the moonwalk technique? I guess you could like jump up into the air and like throw blades down or something like that. But that's the thing. He doesn't seem to have, other than like, you know, swinging the blade so far, it creates like a vacuum pressure blade. He doesn't seem to have like projectiles, in the sense that like, I don't think Mr. One can like make a blade and then fire it. You know, that's not in the wheelhouse of this ability. And ultimately, the Supa-Supa no Mi is an inferior version, is the downgraded version of another devil fruit, Baby Five's Buki no Mi, which allows her to not just do pretty much everything Mr. One is capable of doing, but also can turn her body into any weapon, including guns and missiles and, you know, projectiles and stuff like that. She can turn her whole body into a crossbow, an axe, a halberd. She can do anything, right? So, yeah, when you look at the Buki no Mi, which I have made a video on, you know, the Supa-Supa no Mi doesn't seem to like measure up as much, but still, when you look at all the aspects of it, then you start getting into the idea of Haki. You know, you add armament Haki to those blades, I mean, that's gonna cut through everything like warm butter on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of Texas. Yeah, the butter's going to be very, very soft is the idea. It just cuts straight through it. Also, we always talk about Meito grades in the One Piece world. You know, like, oh, what grade is this sword right here? Oh, this is the Nidai Katetsu. Oh, it's about an Owazamono grade. Screw using a sword. Screw making your blades a Meito. Just become the Meito blade. That's the quest you are given if you eat the Supa-Supa no Mi in the One Piece world, okay? Mr. One does not use a Meito. Mr. One becomes the Meito, all right? He just levels up his own abilities, his own devil fruit power, to eventually to the point where he becomes an Owazamono grade blade himself. In fact, that seems like a fun little question for Oda for an SBS I could see popping up when Mr. One maybe has some more relevance in the story, when the Cross Guilds start doing some stuff. It'd be really cool if someone asked Oda, like, so is Mr. One, if Mr. One was a blade, what would he be? I could see Oda honestly answering, like, oh yeah, he'd be at least an Owazamono grade sword. I'd be like, that's actually cool, and it makes sense, right? At any rate, since their last battle, I'm sure Mr. One is a lot stronger, and if he can coat armament Haki, I mean, sure, Zoro has Conquerors, so he can Conquerors and armament and bypass pretty much any defense like he did with King, but still, I think a rematch between Mr. One and Zoro right now, I think that would be cool to see. Zoro would ultimately win, but seeing all the tricks that maybe Mr. One has picked up along the way, Haki and maybe the Rokushiki techniques, that would be really cool, all right? And we saw him, I mean, when they were attacking the fleet outside of Kalibari Island, when Crocodile was going to go collect the debt that Buggy owed him, that was Stainless, I believe. Stainless was a vice admiral, and Crocodile and Mr. One, just those two characters, were able to decimate that entire
entire fleet of Marines, that of a Vice Admiral. That should not be overlooked, okay? I know Vice Admiral stocks are kind of lower as of late. A lot of them have been very clearly passed up by the main cast, but I guess that includes Crocodile and Mr. One there, because they were just, you know, to use a parlance, buzzsawing their way right through that defense, right? And they made it to Kalibali Island with, like, not a mark on them, okay? Damn. I'm really looking forward to seeing what S-Hawk can do with it, because you got Mihawk's DNA there, okay? And so, you know, not just using a regular sword, which is the design of, like, Yoru, but also using your body as an extension of that. Literally, the idea of, like, think of the sword as an extension of your body. Mr. One doesn't need to do that. The sword is his body. The sword, the blade is me. Very Bleach with it. Mr. One has a Zanpakuto spirit. It's just himself. He goes into his inner world, which is like a superhero movie, like Sky High. He goes into his world, which is the Sky High, and then he sees a version of himself wearing a cape and just, always believe in yourself, Daz. Always understand that you are a superhero. And he's like, yes, indeed, my inner self. And then he gets even stronger. Can Mr. One go Bankai? I mean, maybe he could. I mean, honestly, yeah, like, see, here's the thing. We saw him bust out a bunch of moves in Alabasta. I think the strongest move he used was the one where he turned in, like, he had the skates and he, like, slashed Zoro. But I don't think we really saw anything from Daz that was, like, ultimate final move. Certainly not an awakening. What would an awakening of this be? I guess it would be going along the lines of the other ones, turn the entire area around you into blades. So he, like, slashes you, and then, like, the wall behind you also turns into a blade, so you're just getting sliced from both sides. Like, giant, like, oh my god, dude, if the properties of being able to, like, spin the blade stay the same, he can make any surface, like, a buzzsaw. Like, imagine you're fighting this guy, and then little circular saws just pop up out of the ground and just, you know, just whirl up, and you just step on one and just shreds your foot in half. This fruit is terrifying, okay? It is really strong. I really want to see Daz Bonez cut some shit up now, don't you? Yeah, all right. Well, anyway, except for the one natural weakness that this devil fruit would have. Say it with me now, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's Buggy. That's the reason he hasn't done anything yet. That's the reason we always see Crocodile or Mihawk, like, knocking around Buggy. Mr. One's in the background. He can't do anything to him. I guess Mr. One knows Haki now, but no, even when that goes back to the whole discussion of, like, you know, Buggy's fruit versus Haki, like, does his body split before the blade hits because Mihawk was able to dice him up at Marineford and he was fine. So the idea is he might even be immune to Haki blades, okay? But yeah, Mr. One's in the background like, I want to kick the crap out of that clown too, but I can't slice him up. It's impossible. So, aside from Buggy, who would be the natural weakness or the enemy of the Supa-Supa Nomi, that's his villain. That's his arch nemesis in the One Piece world. Aside from that, very devastating power. And it makes you wonder, really, like, if Zoro had that devil fruit or something, the kind of shit that he could achieve, you know? But Mr. One is no slouch. He's not weak by any stretch of the imagination. So I really look forward to seeing what he can do with it. I'm not really sure where we're going to go with the Seraphim, if they're going to stay around with the government and be ordered around by the Gorosei, or if they're going to go with the Straw Hats to the next island, Elbaf, not really sure, but we'll see where it goes. Anyway, that was the Supa-Supa Nomi, the Dice fruit. Just a nice little fruit video. Never talked about this one, and we got the reveal of it. We also got the reveal of the Mane Nomi and what that looks like. They're just two fruits that look identical, like clones. I did already do a video about that way back in the day, though, so I can leave a link up there, I guess. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Bastet and Vampire Berry signing out. Later, everyone. Dice.